Today is Thursday, September 9th, 2021. Last weekend, I think it lived up to every ounce of expectation that it was given. I enjoyed every second of it. I'm going to talk to you about those games a little bit, and also we're going to go in to this coming week's games. And also we have a guest coming on. Curtis King is coming on to talk some NFL and some bets, some picks, and a little bit of football as well on the college side. So stick around for that. That will be here in about 20-25 minutes. Now, first off, my game of the week going into the weekend was Clemson, Georgia. I think with a lot of people had that game as the game of the week, which it was a really good game. I enjoyed the game. It was a very old-fashioned game, old-school game, defensive game. The only touchdown was a pick six. I enjoyed the game. Now, as you'll see, my top 10, real quick, on the new top 10 I have for this coming week, on how, it looks and everything like that. I had, just with that loss, I have Clemson down to 5. Now, I'm not very high right now on that Clemson offense. I am not. Now, it is a very small sample size. Now, before we go into that, we'll talk a little bit of Georgia Clemson here. But here's the top 10 that I have currently. This is after week 1. I have Alabama number 1 at 1-0. I have Georgia at number 2 now. I moved Oklahoma back one spot, even though they did beat Tulane, but I was not convinced there at the end. If they would have kept up and they probably would have blew them out, I probably might have had Oklahoma at 2, but just for that, I moved them down to 3. Now, I could easily have put Ohio State at 3 as well, but I wanted to stick with Oklahoma there at 3 for right now. But I do like the Buckeyes here at 4. Move Clemson down to 5. I have Texas A&M holding steady at 6. I moved Cincinnati up to 7. From last week's, they were ranked 10th. I have Iowa State moved back 1 due to the kind of sluggish start they had. And I have Penn State moving into my top 10 after beating a Wisconsin team that I had in my top 10 to start the season, which that was a really good game as well. Probably one of the top games of the weekend. Didn't really get too much love, but hey, it was a very good game. I enjoyed watching that, and I have Oregon moving back one spot to number 10. Now, to the Clemson-Georgia game, real quick, and we'll go through and talk about some other games that I had picked and everything throughout the week of last week. Now, Clemson-Georgia, I think if Georgia can somehow – that defense was outstanding. Outstanding defense. Clemson's defense is really good too. I mean, I'm not saying that Clemson is garbage or anything. I'm not. The offense is suspect. Now, it's a very small sample size. I'm not high on Clemson's offense right now. Now, that could change. They got replacing a lot of dudes, a lot of output. I think it was like 71% of their offense that they're replacing. Now, with Georgia, if Georgia can somehow, keep this up, I think they have a shot in the SEC, and I really do like them in the East to win. I do have them win in the SEC East. Now, if they can keep that defense up, and if they can somehow get that offense to start clicking, we may see them possibly maybe beat Alabama. Speaking of Alabama, Alabama is Alabama. I mean, what is there to say? I mean, I knew that they would go in there. I knew they would destroy Miami. Miami had no shot whatsoever to beat Alabama. I mean, that team just reloads. I thought Alabama was the best looking team overall the whole weekend. I really did. I thought they showed the less what's the word I'm looking for? The less flaws. They didn't have a lot of flaws that look like. Now, you can probably notice some maybe if you're an Alabama fan, but, man, from a fan standpoint, looking into it, man, I think Alabama is going to cruise right now. Now, will they have a hiccup game maybe? We don't know. But as of right now, I don't see it right now. But they do have some games coming up at Florida. I think it was week 3. Next week they do. And they still have the game in Oklahoma not Oklahoma, but in October. at Texas A&M. So we'll see how that all is going to pan out. Now, my game of the week, I have Notre Dame at Florida State. I thought that was a really good game. I was sitting here watching. I couldn't stop watching. I really at one point in time, you can talk about Mackenzie Milton coming in, what he was able to do with the knee surgeries, the leg surgeries that he had. Dude shouldn't even be able to walk. And here he is. He's first play, he throws like a 22-yarder down the end of the field. I mean, and Florida State almost won that game. I mean, I had Notre Dame winning that. I thought Notre Dame was going to cover. But, I mean, that place was rocking. Tallahassee was loud, which a lot of places were. I mean, that was the beauty of, everyone, coming back to these games and everything. So that was probably I think for me, that was the game of the week. Went to overtime. So I was really, really impressed with that game. I'm impressed the way Florida State played. I'm impressed. I think they're in the right direction. And I think that will continue into next week. Who knows? Florida State might be – I can see them going to a bowl game. I really can. I like the way they played. But we'll see what Mike Norvell and all his group is able to do. Ole Miss and Louisville. I had Ole Miss winning that game. I thought they played really, really good. I think the offense at one point in time was running a play every 16 to 17 seconds, which is very impressive. But they rolled against Louisville, which I figured they would. Who else did we? Now the only blemish, I went 5-1 last week on my picks, 5-1. The only blemish I had was W in Maryland. I had W winning, of course, but their quarterback stunk it up, completely stunk it up, and I think it's time. I don't agree with a lot of W fans saying, Neil Brown's got to go, this and that. And we're going to bring Curtis King on here in a little bit. He's going to talk more on this game, but I'm going to give you my points of view on it a little bit. I think you got to make a change. You have to. If you're Neil Brown, you have to make a change. I think you play Long Island this week, so you have a gimme game almost, and you're playing at home. Give the kid a shot. You have to give the kid a shot. Now, people calling for Neil Brown's head. I guess they must have forgot that, Dana Holgorsen had lost, to Maryland. He lost to Iowa State year 3. Lost to Kansas, year 3. And I saw somebody, and something about he's the worst quarterback that WVU's ever had in the last, so many years. I thought that was ludicrous. They must have forgot about some of those dudes. The other dudes they were clamoring about when they were also quarterback. But yeah, if you're WVU, you have to. I think if you're Neil Brown, you have to make a change. You have to. I mean, because Virginia Tech in week 3, luckily they're coming to Morgantown, but that could be a game. Virginia Tech's looking good. They look good against North Carolina, which I was really hesitant on North Carolina going into Blacksburg to start the season off. I really was. But that is the review for week 1. What a week. Like I said, I went 5-1 in those picks, and like I said, we're going to keep those picks up. We're going to keep the same record. Hopefully, we're going to continue the same success. And for this week's game that we're going to pick 5 from this week. Last week we did 6 due to it being opening week, but we're going to keep the same ways. We're going to go down to 5, and that's going to be for the rest of the year, unless there's something, maybe there's too many other games. But now this week, first off, we're going to talk about the number 12 Oregon at Ohio State. Now, Oregon is ranked 12th in this game. Ohio State's 3rd in the AP poll. Ohio State's got a 14.5. Spread is at 14.5 right now for Ohio State, and I think they do cover that. Now, Oregon, with it being, Pacific time zone, they got to go play at 9 a.m. their time. So I don't know how they drew that. I don't know when they came up with that. I really have no idea. But I don't think it's the end-all be-all. I think Oregon's a pretty decent team. But I like Ohio State in this one, being at home, first home game. I like Ohio State to eventually. I think they do get around that 14 point. I do eventually think they do cover that. Now, my game of the week is number 10 Iowa at number 9 Iowa State. Now, this game, game day is going to it. I like Iowa State. I like Iowa State to rebound. I know. They Iowa destroyed Indiana. I'm not a big fan of Iowa. I think Indiana is one of the most overrated teams in all college football. Don't even give me that. I don't. I listen. I know they had a decent team last year, but they didn't play anyone outside the Big Ten. So we don't know. Minus, their bowl game maybe, but outside of that, dude, don't give me that Indiana stuff. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think they're overrated, and that ranking that they had didn't suffice them. And I'm glad that Indiana came. That Iowa went in there and took care of business. But anyways, before I get off point here, I like Iowa State in a close one. I think it's a very good game, but I do like Iowa State in this one at home. Now, next one we're going with number 21 Utah is a 7-point favorite at BYU. I like Utah in this one. We got a rivalry game, but I love Utah in this one. I have Utah winning the Pac-12 South this year, so I like Utah. So moving on, number 15 Texas is a 7-point favorite at Arkansas. Arkansas struggled against Rice last week. We know Arkansas is not that good. I like Texas in this one, -7. But Texas, now this game would have been a little bit better if Washington wouldn't have laid an egg against Montana. But we're going to pick it anyway. This is an 8 p.m. game at Michigan. Washington at Michigan. Michigan, I think they cover at 7, but I have Michigan winning outright. So I have repeating these down the list. I have Ohio State beating Oregon. I have Iowa State beating Iowa. I have Utah beating BYU. I have Texas beating Arkansas, and Michigan beating Washington. Now, I look forward to a great week this week. We're going to keep tabs on it again, and I look forward to talking to you all next week. So stay tuned for that, and I'm looking forward to it, and I'll see you guys then. And also, don't forget to check out the next segment coming on here in about 10, 15 seconds maybe. We got Curtis King coming on. We're going to talk some NFL. We're going to talk some WVU football, and stay tuned for that. Anyways, I want to welcome everybody back. I got Curtis King with us. It's first time on the show. I'm glad I'm having you here today. I got a lot of stuff I want to talk to you. I know you want to talk a little WVU, so we're going to start off with WVU. What were your thoughts on the WVU Maryland game last weekend?
First of all, road games are tougher this year because these stadiums are full packed. Fuck yeah, we got fans in the stands. There was nobody in the stands last year. It's awesome to see. It's great for college football. Fuck Dr. Fauci, but says we can't go to games or whatever. But I digress. But West Virginia, their defense gave up some big plays early on, and then that they really looked better. We had a young corner just get smoked. I think that was in the first quarter, and they looked a lot better, but the play calling's terrible. I think all WU fans can unite whenever we say we need a quarterback change. Mm-hmm. Garrett Green's more mobile. He can't be much worse at this point. It's not just the turnovers from Daggy. They're bad turnovers. He's just chucking the ball up, and you can't throw picks in the red zone, and you can't just chuck the ball up and give the ball away. And whenever you lose turnover battle 4-0, especially on the road, mm-hmm. You're not going to win many games. But it was a disappointing loss, but I don't think it's time to jump off the wagon. I think we need to see some Garrett Green this week, see how he plays, and Virginia Tech's defense is probably licking their chops. In 2 weeks.
Now, how do you feel when people say that's calling for Neil Brown's head already? How do you feel about that?
Holgorsen in his third year, he lost to Maryland 37-0. It's Neil Brown's third year. Obviously rebuilding. Yes, it was disappointing, but we have a top 25 recruiting class coming in. The dude's recruited his butt off. Conservative at times. I don't agree with some of the play calls, but I think change away from being an 8-9 win team. Jared Daggy, we're 6 to 7 wins tops, and I think we recruited a guy who's supposed to come in next year, a 4-star quarterback from Arizona?
I think so.
Is it Will Crowder, who's the number 3, and then Garrett Green? I mean, I would love to see any of those guys over Daggy. I mean, we know what Daggy brings. I heard the off season how much he improved, and I just didn't see it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's why I think that's why he was benched, in the bowl game. That's why Kendall, I think, got the start over him. Now, also, I did see, because, right after the game, man, everybody's on Facebook and everything saying, fire Neil Brown. Or I even saw one that said that. I even seen something that said that Daggy was the worst quarterback of the last 15 to 20 some years. I saw something with that. And to your point with the Maryland game in 2013, I got named Forward Childress, which I was really high on. You can ask anyone around me. I was high on the kid. I mean, perfect size. I think he was like four-star some recruit. I mean, he's supposed to be Dana's, guy after Geno left. And he lays it. I mean, he comes out of the Georgia State game, kind of the same scenario almost. You go and Georgia, I think that was Georgia State's first year ever playing. Forward Childress comes out, this and that, looks pretty decent, and then goes out to Maryland and just gets his ass romped. And then that's the last you really hear about him. So I would say Forward Childress, in my eyes, is probably the worst quarterback. I think of Paul Millard. Paul Millard comes to mind. I think you said something about Brad Lewis comes to mind. But yeah, I think it's kind of a stretch for Daggy. But Daggy's not that good, but I don't think he's the worst, in my opinion. That's just me, though.
And Singers can't make the mistakes that he's making.
No.
And people are like, oh, give him a chance. I mean, he got benched versus Army in the bowl game for a reason. I mean, we know what we're getting with Jared Daggy. He has no mobility. I mean, in today's college game, in today's NFL game even, you've got to have a little bit of mobility. And I think our offensive tackle struggled a little bit. I would like to see us move Doug Nestor, the Virginia Tech. I think he played left guard. I'd like to see him move him to tackle because I think their tackles just got burnt. But I'd also see us like to run more draw plays with Letty Brown. Oh. I mean, the dude got 7 carries in the second half. I mean, he's our best player. It's just inexcusable, especially in the red zone.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's definitely the best player on the field right there, especially in offense. You have to give him the ball. I mean, now, how did you have the game playing out? What was your projection on that game? Like, did you think they would cover? How did you feel about that?
West Virginia, I don't like to lay points, especially on the road.
Yeah.
Maryland had a lot of fans there, and there's just so many unknowns in week 1. I like the under. I thought the total was going to be like 46. Somebody told me it was 58, and there's 31 points in the first quarter, and underbackers are like, damn, I'm fucked. And then it ends up going under somehow. The defense is strapped down, and Winston Wright had 2 big kickoff returns. That muff fumble, you just can't have that. But he's probably our best playmaker right now.
Okay. Well, now, what's worst case scenario? So say Garrett Green is not the guy. So, I mean, you definitely have to give him a shot after what you saw week 1. You have to. I mean, you got nothing to lose. I mean, you got Long Island this week. I think that's who it is. So, I mean, you have to start him. I would hopefully you would. If that doesn't work out, what's the worst case scenario for this team? Where do you see it going?
Senior, his ceiling is 6 to 7 wins. So, I mean, West Virginia's got a tough schedule. I mean, Virginia Tech's going to be a tough game. I think, they looked really good against North Carolina, and West Virginia's probably going to be an underdog in that game now. But they'll win 7 games. I think after week 1, you tend to you tend to see a lot of overreaction.
Yeah.
And I trust Neil Brown. I trust he'll get it right. Fans, and he even thanked the fans for the support and all that. And he knows the fans are pissed off, and he knows they have a right to be. But I think the play calling is a little bit too conservative. And I mean, the dude's a top 3 back in the Big 12, and you don't need to be throwing red zone fades to
No.
mediocre wide receivers in the red zone. And Bryce Ford Wheaton, I mean, the dude's built like fucking Terrell Owens, but the guy's had some big key drops, and I'd like to see our wide receivers play a little bit better.
Definitely. I mean, I think that's definitely the key. No matter what quarterback you put back there, they, like you said, they had a lot of drops last year. I think they led the Big 12 in drops. So you got to clean that up anyway. So if they don't clean the drops up, I mean, I think you could put Tom Brady back there and you're still going to have issues. But now, I want to also get your opinion on what did you think about last weekend's football games as a whole, not just those of you, but did you watch the Clemson, Georgia, stuff like that? What was your game of the week last weekend?
King, you probably shouldn't talk shit to Alabama before you play them. My best play last week was Alabama first half, and if you look the past 12 years, Alabama has covered in week 1. The only week 1 they didn't cover, you guess it, against the Mountaineers. Wow. They didn't cover against West Virginia. Clint Trickett. West Virginia played great that game in the Georgia Dome.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Saban has them ready, and they ran down Miami's throat. And, it's hard to not like Alabama to repeat.
Man, I read somewhere, good coaches win, great coaches cover. That's Nick Saban. Nick Saban, I mean, like you just stated, he covers games. I mean, I remember that WVU Alabama game, actually. That was after WVU, I think, we went 4-8. Just talked about the 2013 season. Yeah, they come out, and, I mean, they gave Alabama a little run there. I didn't think they would hold, but, I mean, they played pretty damn good that game. I thought, man, I'll tell you this. I was really, really looking forward to the Georgia-Clemson game as everyone else was. And don't get me wrong, it was a great game. But I would say Florida State Notre Dame was that game of the week. I thought it was game of the weekend for me, personally.
Yeah, I watched the Georgia Clemson game, and I think I fell asleep. It's just so boring. Clemson's offensive line is they're not on the same level as Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State. Clemson's O-line struggled. I mean, they got beat like they stole something. And it'll be fine. They'll probably make the playoff in the weak ACC, but the SEC is just on a different level. And Notre Dame is a little bit overrated every year.
Yeah.
And Mackenzie Milton, what he did, I didn't get to watch the game, but I saw the highlights and everything. It was pretty special, coming back from the leg injury that he had to come in there and almost lead him back.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
that's the game of the week.
Yeah, I think, man, I watched all the game. I watched the full Florida State Notre Dame game, and we don't know how good Notre Dame is really going to be this year, but based off what it was, I mean that place is rocking in Tallahassee though. But what Mackenzie Milton was able to do, and the chance of a helmet coming off for him to come into the game, and I wish that snap was not a bad snap to see if they would have scored or what would have happened with that. But overall, I think that was a really good game, and I'm with you. I think Clemson's offense is horrible. I'm not high on that quarterback, really. I'm not even going to pronounce his name because I'm going to fuck it up. But, I mean, Georgia's offense is nothing to be reckoned about either. Now, I think that Georgia will clean it up, though. If Georgia can clean that offense up, I really think that Georgia I think they could give Alabama a run for their money. I don't know if they can win it. But, man, it's a long season. So we'll see on that. Now to the NFL. Who are your picks? Who are your locks for week 1?
Do you want me to go over my NFL future bets or my week 1 plays first?
I mean, you can go through week 1 first. Play the.
Okay, so I'm really high on the Patriots this year. Bill Belichick, he's the best coach in the NFL. He went 7-9 last year. It was his worst season in 20 years. I mean,
Yeah.
They added a bunch. They added 2 solid tight ends. They got Dante Hightower back, who sat out because of COVID. They got Calvin Noy back, a linebacker, who was with Miami. They added Matt Judon, the edge from Baltimore. They got Trip Brown from the Raiders. They got Nelson Aguilar, who is what it is, but he's still a little bit of an upgrade. I think they're going to have one of the best front sevens in football. I like the Patriots -3 versus the Dolphins.
Okay.
And I think the Patriots win by more than a touchdown. I'm not sold on Tua. Starting left tackle Austin Jackson's out for the game because of COVID. Their backup tight end Adam Shaheen's out for the game. Will Fuller suspended for 4 games. Dolphins are 1-8 in their last 9 games at New England. I really like Mac Jones. I think he's a huge upgrade over Cam Newton. I think he's in a great situation. He's got the best coach in football. He's got a top 5 offensive line. They're going to run the ball, and they're going to run play action to the tight ends. They're not going to make his job hard. I think that the Dolphins are going to have trouble scoring more than 17 points. I like the Patriots in that game.
Okay.
That's my best week 1 play.
Now, you said you're really high on New England this year. What's your over-under on wins for them? Do you think they could –
play of the whole season, my best future bet is Patriots over 9.5 wins.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Of course, there's 17 games this year. I really like what that team's done. Their front seven's good. Only concern is Stephon Gilmore's out for the first 6 games with an injury. I think their other corner, I think his name's J.C. Jackson. He's one of the most underrated corners in the league. They still got Devin McCourty, who's a top 5 safety in football. I think Matt Jones, he's in a great spot. He's not going to turn the ball over like Cam Newton is. He's going to hand the ball off. They're going to run play action. And I like their schedule. They start with their first 7 games. They have 5 home games. Week 4, they got Tampa Bay at home. Tom Brady coming back. It's going to be really intriguing. Bill Belichick, he got humbled last year. He went 7-9, and he watched Tom Brady say, I can win without you, motherfucker. Bill Belichick, the Patriots added a ton in the offseason. Their linebacking core is stacked.
Yeah.
I really like the Patriots. I think they could win the division because I think Josh Allen's due for a little bit of regression. I do like the Bills, but I'm not as high on the Dolphins as people are. I don't think their offensive line's that good.
Okay. Well, do you have any other picks for this weekend, or
Week 1 plays? I have Washington straight up at home versus the Chargers. Funny how you mentioned the Oregon going to Ohio State, the West Coast going to East Coast playing the early games. Same situation. Chargers, they got a rookie head coach going on the road to play the early game. Ryan Fitzpatrick, disrespect. The dude's solid. He's a gunslinger.
Yeah.
The Redskins played with Alex Smith last year. The dude played on one leg. So I think they got and they still won the division. I think they got an upgrade at quarterback. And they added Curtis Samuel. They added William Jackson, cornerback from the Bengals. They had a great draft. I do like the Chargers this year, but I think people are a little bit too high on them. I really like Washington to win that game straight up.
I agree. I like Washington on that one.
Line in the NFL, I think Chase Young is going to win Defensive Player of the Year.
Okay. All right. I'm not going to argue on that one. That dude's solid. I really like Washington. I like their defense. I do like Washington, and also you were talking about the Patriots too. I like the Patriots on that one as well.
I'm 5-1 last week, so you know what you're doing.
Hey, NFL for me is a little. It's a little bit. College for me has always been easier picking. I don't know. Now NFL, man, I could, college I can run out a 5-1 record, 6-0 or whatever, and then NFL I'd be like, ugh, 2-4. Hey, Doveview was the only one that I lost on last week. Yeah, I had them winning. But hey, we'll see. Hey, how do you feel about the Cowboys Buccaneers? Cowboys find the upset, or are they Tampa Bay?
Zach Morton's out with COVID. I mean, that's the best offensive lineman. He's one of the best guards in the NFL. He's the best offensive lineman for Dallas. That's huge. I mean, it's unlucky, but I don't think I was watching Hard Knocks. I don't think Dak's shoulder's healthy. I think the line's up to 8 now. I like teasing the Bucks down to -2 and the Rams the Monday night game down to -1 versus the Bears. I don't like laying 8 points, but no, Dallas isn't going to go in there and win. They're just not.
Yeah, I think the line's up to 8.5 now for Tampa Bay for tomorrow. So that's yeah, I like Tampa Bay. I was actually the game that I'm actually really looking forward to. For me, I want to see where can I find it? I lost it. Bears Rams. I'm actually looking forward to that one. I don't know. I like to see Matt Stafford, see what he does in LA. I'm glad that he got out of Detroit. I've always kind of been a Matt Stafford guy, but it's just, man, he just wasted away in Detroit, which happens to a lot of people. No disrespect for Detroit, but it happens. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to those. Now college, well, I got you on here. I'll go and give you my picks for the college here before we do jump off here. All right, so Oregon at Ohio State. I like Ohio State on that. Iowa State. I like Iowa State on that one. I also am picking Utah. Yeah, Ohio State. I like for them to cover 14.5. I do like that. Iowa State and Iowa's 4.5 for Iowa State. I think I like Iowa State straight up on that one. Now Utah at BYU. Utah's a 7-point favorite at BYU. I like Utah on that one. Then I'm also picking Texas at Arkansas, which I think that could be a trap game. I mean, even though Arkansas kind of didn't play up to their stand. I mean, we're talking about Arkansas though. Almost lost to Rice last week, but I think Texas ends up winning that game. I think it's pretty close. I don't think Texas covers that. I really don't. And then Washington and Michigan, I was going to pick that one. Michigan, I like them to cover. I don't think Washington's that good. So that's my picks for the week for college.
Texas game?
What's that?
What's the spread on the Texas game?
Texas is -7 for Texas.
That's an upgrade. I think he's a good coach.
Yeah. What do you think it would take? How do you feel about Texas? Well, actually, I want to get your opinion on that before we do go. What's your opinion on Texas, Oklahoma leaving the Big 12?
The new wave. I mean,
Yeah.
the SEC is just so dominant, and it sucks. I mean, it sucks for West Virginia, but I would like to get to the ACC if they can get in there. But it looks like it looks like the Big 12 is going to add, what is it, BYU, Cincinnati,
Houston, and UCF was the other one.
Probably the best case scenario. If we can't get into the ACC, that's the next best case scenario. The SEC is going to be dominant. I mean, it's like a league of their own. They don't need the AC, or they don't need the NCAA.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I mean, I'm actually kind of glad that they're gone. I mean, honestly, the way I think about it is, I mean, because I can see Texas, Oklahoma leaving before 2025. Now, what happens post that grant of rights, whether they get extended or whether it doesn't, that's hard to say. Now, up until 2025, I can see the Big 12, which they will probably do. They're going to add, Houston, BYU, UCF, and Cincinnati. I think that's the 4 best teams that you can pick up. Now, are they going to be able to replace Texas and Oklahoma? No, I don't think really anything could. But, I mean, I think it's the next best thing, like you said. But we'll see what happens with it. It's a long way to go. But
2025 is the first year that's going to be official?
Well, for the grant of rights, because Oklahoma and Texas are obligated to stay through technically their grant of rights unless they pay the buyout, which I think the buyout itself is about $80 million apiece. Now, Texas and Oklahoma could afford that, but for any other school, including Texas, Oklahoma, to leave, they would have to pay that. So if Bellevue somehow tomorrow got an invitation from the ACC, they would have to pay that up to be able to leave before 2025. Now, if they extend the grant of rights, then you got a whole nother conversation, but that's what would have to happen, essentially. But we got a long way to go. So
Chump change for Texas and Oklahoma when you're going to the ACC or the SEC.
Yeah, man. I don't know. We'll see, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a good move. I don't think it's the best move for the Big 12, but I'm looking forward to it though. I mean, think about it, man. If you don't have to play Oklahoma no more or anything like that, you know.
You get 0-7 versus Oklahoma since the Fiesta Bowl.
All right, guys, that's all I got for today. I do want to thank everyone who tuned in for the Week 2 review and preview for this upcoming week in college football and the NFL. We look forward to seeing you all next week. We're going to have a brand new show for you guys, so please stay tuned for that if I can speak today. But enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the football. We'll see you next week.